We've got some really interesting news to go over today about the PTR. More raid abilities are being turned into private auras, assassination rogues are actually looking to be viable in Mythic Plus, and the drop chance of tier pieces off raid bosses is getting nerfed. So stick around and we'll go over all of this and explain everything to you guys. But before we begin, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so that way you guys never miss my latest videos. So for our first news story, I wanted to talk about Farak and how more of his abilities are being turned into what are called private auras. For anyone who doesn't know, Farak is the final boss of this next raid in the new season that's starting on November 7th. Private auras are a new system that Blizzard is starting to use more and more now to combat weak auras and buff tracking. Currently, boss mods and weak auras are very heavily used for raiding, and over the years, Blizzard has had to make boss fights harder because the add-ons have just been making a lot of these fights more trivial. This new private aura push is Blizzard trying to combat the add-ons and prevent them from tracking spells or auras. So in theory, what this means is that we're going to actually have to pay more attention and lean less on our add-ons when we're actually doing these fights. And I was looking at the comment section for this post on Wowhead, and holy shit, there are a lot of doomer takes there. There are just tons of people over there with lots of ignorant takes and people that just don't know what they're talking about. No, this isn't going to kill the game. Everything's going to be just fine. Let me try to explain at least my take on this for everybody. So my thought is that Blizzard is trying to kind of eliminate the whole use of weak auras and, deadly boss mods, things like that. And, just getting them to the point where they're just basically acting as like timers to let us know when an actual mechanic or ability is going to be going off, which is totally fine. I think what they're trying to get at here is that once they can actually get over this hump and have abilities not being tracked by weak auras, they can go back to making boss mechanics less crazy. And I think over time, if Blizzard can do a better job of televising abilities, then I feel like we'll be in a lot better spot. So to those of you who are freaking out about this, just relax, take a breath, everything's gonna be okay. And on to our next story, where we're going to be talking about some balance tuning. So first up, we've got some changes to the Battleground Blitzball. In Arathi Basin / Deepwind Gorge, the resource acquisition has been increased from 7, 10, 15, 50, and 65, 4 bases being held, when previously it was 7, 10, 13, 20, and 80, so a slight nerf there. In Eye of the Storm, the resource acquisition has been increased to 7 and 15, 4 bases held, and previously it was 5 and 12. And then Into the Shadows movement speed has been increased to 100% from 50%. And then on to the class changes. So for Demon Hunter, you've got a developer's note here, and it says, in addition to the below changes, there are going to be additional tuning changes planned that will be applied to the PTR over the course of this next week. So currently we've got Immolation Aura damage reduced by 8%, Sigil of Flame duration increased to 2 seconds, and then for Havoc, we've got Demon Hide magic damage bonus reduced to 4% from 5%. And then moving on to Priest. So for Discipline, we've got another developer's note. We're happy with Discipline Priest's healing throughput in Guardians of the Dream, but their damage contribution, particularly in raid encounters, is higher than we'd like. As a result, we're lowering the overall damage and increased atonement to compensate. In addition, we are slightly increasing the damage of Shadowward Pain and Purge of the Wicked to ensure that they will continue to be used in single target situations. All damage done reduced by 9%, Atonement healing increased by 9%, Purge the Wicked damage increased by 5%, and Shadowward Pain damage increased by 10%. So yeah, these are definitely some pretty interesting changes. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out once the raid goes live. Moving on to Rogues and Outlaw, their ability damage was reduced by 6%, so RIP Outlaw. No, I'm just kidding. And then for Arms Warriors, we've got Mortal Strike damage increased by 10%, and Overpowered damage increased by 10%. And then for PvP, we've got Bloodlust, Heroism, Time Warp, Primal Rage, and Fury of the Aspects can now be used in raided battlegrounds. And then finally, we've got a hotfix that was applied just recently to the PTR for Assassination Rogues. So the first change here is for Caustic Spatter. They're increasing the damage of it from 35% to 45% of your poison damage. For Extinguinate, while above 50% of your maximum energy, your Garrote, Rupture, and Crimson Tempest consume 30% of any damage dealt, up from 25%. For the 2-piece of the new tier set, each 10 energy you spend grants Nature Blade, granting 1% attack speed and 1% nature damage for 6 seconds. Multiple instances of Nature Blade may overlap up to 12, down from 15, so that's a slight nerf there. And then the 4-piece, Envenom additionally empowers itself, causing an Envenomous explosion dealing 50%, up from 33% attack power nature damage to all nearby enemies. So a little over a 20% damage increase for the 4-piece. So in my opinion on the rogue changes in general, and then also with these hat-fixed buffs, I feel like Assassination is going to be in a really good spot. They've always done really good single target damage, and it looks here that they're trying to increase the AoE damage for them as well. If I wasn't playing my Hunter this next tier, I definitely would be switching over to my Assassination Rogue. And that's all I've got for you today, but before you go, I want to leave you with this. What are your thoughts on the private aura changes? Do you guys like the idea of things being hidden, or do you prefer weak auras to literally tell you everything? This is a pretty heated topic, so I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. And like always, I always make it an effort to respond to people in my comment section, so your voices will be heard. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.